Hey everyone, welcome to the Good E-Reader Radio Show. My name is Michael,
And this is Peter. Look a little bit
and
different today, you might notice. Got my hair done.
yeah, you got a haircut.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah, it's looking good.
Er,
Ears are intact, so a successful trip.
Yeah. So today on the show,
Very serious.
we're gonna focus on 2024 and what does
Technology is amazing.
2024 hold with e-readers, and what could we expect from potential releases from Amazon, Barnes
Yep.
and Noble, Kobo, as well as other brands like Big Me, Onyx Books, Me Book, iFlyTech, iReader, iRead, etc., etc. So let's talk about Barnes and Noble because they've been in the news a lot lately towards the tail end of like December. So the Nook Glowlight 4 Plus, they released midway through 2023.
That's right.
It's their first e-reader that had audiobook functionality. It's their largest screen. People like it a lot. In fact, so much that it's completely sold out. Not just a couple weeks, not just a couple months, but May of 2024, which
It's
is 6 months
super,
away.
super sold out. I don't know what happened there, but Mike actually does. When we had a roundtable discussion internally, he brought up a good point about the string of holidays. So why don't you lay it down as to why something like this could occur to even the biggest of brands?
There's a reason why a lot of e-readers come out for Mother's Day. They plan this like 6 to 8 months in like prior. It's because of, first of all, American Canadian holidays. You have to look at, there's like Black Friday, which is like no one's really working, everyone's in sell mode. Christmas, New Year's, and then for the Chinese holidays, because all of the Kindles, Kobos, Nooks, they're all assembled in China. Kobo and Barnes and Noble are made in Taiwan,
Yeah.
and there is a string of holidays that are almost back to back. So there's Chinese New Year, and we're familiar with with New Year's like in America and Canada, where it's like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Those
Yeah.
are basically 2 days.
Yeah.
In China, it's like almost 2 weeks
Yeah.
that they have it off because everyone's expected that they're going home. China's a big country, so people are either taking the train, people are flying and spending more time with like their family, whereas most people are in work mode. And then right after that, it's the Spring Festival, which is like another week and a half, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then you put
So
in you also account for weekends, and then people take days off in between befores and afters. So, 3 stat days can turn into 9 very quickly, back to back to back to back.
yeah, so around April is when everyone's back from work, and then that's when the e-readers actually get physically
Yeah,
constructed. People are back at like the assembly lines at the fabs, all management's back, all the workers are back.
that's right.
So, everyone's going to be making the e-readers in April and then shipping them out that same month, that towards the end of April, to the people that ordered them. So that's why we have May 31st
Isn't that
as the
crazy?
date that it's in stock. So
Yeah.
we also have news that Kobo is going to be releasing a new e-reader. We don't know what model it is. It's either going to be a new Sage
Hmm.
or a new Libra. I think that's from looking at the FCC application that was filed like October of
Yeah.
2023. Usually, when they do FCC applications, that's the last step that a company has to do in order to have, regulatory approval to sell it in basically North America.
Yep.
And they have to get the equivalent of like other applications like for Europe, for Japan, to sell it in Australia. So there's a lot of hurdles for regulatory like approval. So I have a feeling that this e-reader from Kobo is going to come out towards around Mother's Day as well, because like you know you have to look at American holidays, Canadian holidays, which are basically the same thing, and then all of like the Chinese holidays back to back. So nothing's really being manufactured from like January until April. That
Right.
April is usually the date that, everybody's sort of like back to work and in work mode. So there's all these overlapping holidays from North America and China sort of happening back to back to back. So that's why a lot of e-readers like don't really come out until that date. And you have to look at like, the first quarter of the year. It's usually the slowest time in terms of
Very slow.
releases. Like there's really no new Kindles that come out in the first 3 months of the year. It's usually around summer or fall that new Kindles come out because people are on vacation. They want to buy a new e-reader. They want to read by the beach or like on vacation and whatnot. So
Speaking of Kindle, what is going on with the actual device body constructions releases of Amazon devices? Because they used to pump out devices. At one point, they had Oasis, Voyage, Paperwhite, all these competing lines side by side by side. And now they've gotten rid of the Voyage. They've effectively abandoned the Oasis, and the Paperwhite hasn't moved since 2021. And it's 2024 in 2 days. So why do you think that Amazon hasn't moved an inch when it comes to a release of an actual unit, except despite the fact that up until now they did one or even two gens of releases per year?
yeah, it's weird. 2023 was like the first year that Amazon never released an e-reader. They're
Yep.
pretty consistent about at least one new model a year. And I think that it's so I have like a few thoughts like
Yeah.
on the matter. I've written a number of sort of articles on it, but I'll give you like the TLDR if that's the terminology that people use. It's sort of like a summation. So
The
Amazon
lit
started selling books. Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos started the company. He loves books. He's the one that basically like pushed everyone to release a Kindle e-reader. And he surrounded himself with like executives that had been with him for like the last 20 years pretty well, in charge of hardware, in charge of the Kindle, in charge of devices, in charge of ebooks, and audiobooks, like team working, hand in hand with like Kindle. And when Jeff Bezos left, within like 6 months of after him leaving, most of the longer term executives in charge of hardware, in charge of the Kindle, they all announced either they were leaving immediately or announced that they're retiring and have basically all left the company in 2023 and 2022 and so on. Plus, you have to think about Amazon laid off. I think it was like 35% or 40% of the entire hardware team. So the people working on Alexa, the Kindle, the Fire tablets, so on and so forth. The entire teams are gutted, so morale is tremendously down. And then you think about all the long-term executives that were champions of the Kindle, they're no longer there with the company anymore. So there's really nobody at Amazon that is really bullish about the Kindle that's still working there now. And that was, I think, why they didn't release anything in 2023 because like there was this big executive exodus. There was this big firing thing of like all the teams. So basically, what we saw is more Alexa this, a more Alexa that,
Yeah.
and
You
Fire
remember that
tablets.
Kindle show you covered? You had your guys go over there and they were like nothing but doorbell cameras and Echo Dots and lifestyle goods and like
Yeah,
no Kindle or even a Fire
routers.
tablet. No, I think there was a Fire tablet like Kids or something that came out, right? During
Yeah.
that
So in
show.
2023, it's like, the Fire Max 11, which is sort of like
Yeah.
their 11-inch, the biggest like thing that they released, as well as the keyboard and like the stylus for it. So
Yeah.
Amazon is very bullish on the tablet space.
Yeah.
And obviously it's because of all of like the money that they're putting into Amazon Music. Prime Video, like showing NFL games on Prime
Yeah.
Video. They
Yeah.
pump how much hundreds of millions of dollars did they pump into like the Lord of the Rings show, The Ring of
Yeah.
Power?
And you
Um,
can't consume that on a Kindle, but you can
That's
on the
right.
Fire tablet
That's why every year they almost like refresh their entire Fire
constantly.
tablet like line, and they don't do that with the Kindle because the Kindle has a singular purpose. It's reading books and to a lesser extent audiobooks.
That's
But
it.
Amazon makes the real money through Prime Video, showing advertisements on their Freevis or
Yeah.
Freeverse. They have like a free sort of app where you can watch like television, but with like Prime, you can also add like channel packs to subscribe to like AMC or Stars or like Hollywood Suites, HBO. It's like, all these like add-on services that you could add to your Fire TV if you have a Fire TV or your Fire tablet.
Your
So
Fire tablet.
Amazon is like big into Fire TVs, like either the USB ones, the Fire Cube,
Yeah.
refreshing that every year, refreshing their tablets every year because they make more revenue selling channels and showing Prime Video, and that's where Amazon makes the real money right now.
Yeah.
And you can't do that like with the Kindle e-reader. And you have to look at the money that Amazon's actually making selling books. They sell way more books than they do ebooks. They never really see they never really kind of disclose how much money that they make selling books, but I
Yeah.
believe that it's like the print. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm actually trying to find them. Uh, yeah, so I have September's figures, which is the latest that came out in December. So usually it's like staggered like that. So in September, physical paper, hard book revenues made okay, so year to date, so from January 1st to September of 2023, uh, trade revenues were about 6.4 billion. So that includes hardback, paperbacks, mass market, special bindings. And then if you look at ebook revenues, which include Amazon reporting to this, ebooks only made 749 million dollars,
So
and
that's like
audio,
it's not even like
yeah,
it's 8 to 1.
yeah. So for
Yeah.
every eight books, hard eight like physical books that Amazon sells, one ebook's being
Yeah.
sold. It doesn't include um like subscription services in
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
figures.
Yeah.
So like Amazon Kindle Unlimited, Scribd, everybody has like their own unlimited programs now, and all third parties basically, have made business models like around that. So
Yeah.
what I think happened covering Amazon is that in 2023 they focused on software
They
as opposed
did.
to new Kindle releases. Like
Yeah.
they basically there was a time where the Scribe had its own software and Kindles had their own software. And
Yeah.
then when Amazon basically revised their home screen experience, which was like they changed they got rid of My Library as being the default. They made like a new home screen. A lot of people kind of got mad because they had liked what they were been using for like the last 10 or 15
Yeah.
years.
It's
But
UI shock.
Amazon basically changed the programming languages. I think it was from Java to like Node.js. And don't quote me on that, but I know that they changed the programming language and they basically made the Scribe and Paperwhite uh like firmware updates. When they release updates, they can now do it on all devices.
Mm.
So when they release an update for like the Scribe and at the same time they'll do the Kindle, they'll actually hide the Scribe features on the Kindle, but they're still there. They're just like
Yeah.
hidden.
Yeah, we've
So
seen a couple instances of our guys discovering things that should and shouldn't be there, and then we were like, wait, why are there hidden features that, like the whole thing that started with that is that the whole note synchronization. How if you draw a note on a Scribe page, you can only view it on your phone Kindle app, not your e-reader or another Scribe. And then we saw certain things pop up in certain places that shouldn't be there. And we were like, okay, well, there's something going on that they're hiding things so that the user doesn't have access to them.
Yeah, so the reason why they're doing that is so it's easier to push out updates across, the entire 11th
Yeah,
generation line
right.
of Kindle Basic, Paperwhite, Signature Edition, Oasis 3, and the Scribe all at the same time, which makes it easier for the engineers to do. All they
Yeah.
do is like push live like certain scribe enhancements and then push those same scribe features to the other Kindles, but they hide them, and but they could unlock specific features at specific dates, like
Yeah.
being able to view your scribe notes on your Paperwhite. I know that you can do that with certain apps now. Like you can actually see some of your notes, like
Yeah.
on, I
You
think it was
can.
like either for Kindle for Android or for iOS. One of them is that you can have some light functionality of scribe on the Kindle app. And so that's what they can do there. And going back to the fire things for just like one more time. I don't want to keep going to that well, but
Yeah.
you could buy content from Amazon on their e-readers and their tablets, but you can no longer buy like ebooks or audiobooks or anything on the Android apps. So they removed that functionality in 2023. So if you downloaded like the Kindle app from Google Play, you could actually in the past buy ebooks, buy audiobooks, etc. And then Amazon removed that functionality because Google Play themselves removed the functionality. So
Mm.
of because they basically said that they had a loyalty system, but a lot of companies just didn't pay Google anything for it. But then there was a time where Google mandated that everyone pay, the same equivalent of the Apple tax. So for everything, any virtual item sold, for any tangible item being sold, not only is Google taking 30% now, but Apple's been doing that all its time. So whether you're using the Kindle app for iOS or Android now, you can actually buy content in those apps. So it's pushing more people to buy a Fire tablet because you're buying it through Amazon themselves because it's the
Yeah.
Amazon branded device, and they're not going through like a third party like merchant to facilitate payments or anything. And it's the same thing with owning a Kindle, is that you could buy ebooks and audiobooks on supported devices in supported countries, and not include, and that doesn't include Canada, unfortunately.
Right.
So that's one of the things about Amazon's pivot towards like Amazon branded hardware is basically the only thing that you can buy now in order to buy comics and manga and books and magazines and newspapers and stuff like that. That's the only game in town now, unless there's other workarounds like if you download Kindle from the Samsung Galaxy App Store. So if you sideload the Samsung Galaxy
Yeah.
App Store like
Right.
on a generic tablet or on an eNote that's running Android or something like that. There's bypasses, but who's going to really do that? It's the same thing about like if you have an Android device, like an Android phone, are you going to keep on going to like the Amazon.com website, browsing for a book, log in,
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
a book
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
want to buy, sync it to like your app? It's just better to like go with someone else that actually can do payments like directly through the app. So I
Yep.
know a lot more people on iPhone that are using iBooks now instead of Kindle because you can actually buy books and audiobooks like right through the Apple device.
I know a lot of people on the flip side using Google Playbooks, and they have a
Yes.
ton of cool features too, like you can double tap manga and graphic novel text bubbles and they blow up, and they're not poorly done. It's perfectly keyed out, and it produces not only a zoomed in image of the text, but a differently rendered one. So it's not just you're expanding poorly pixelated text bubbles. It's like it overlays a bigger one for you and then retracts it when you double tap out. Little things like that. And it's so accessible, much like you said with the Apple books. So there's definitely different avenues, more so than we ever have seen.
Yeah, so I mean, there's alternatives to these ecosystems on various platforms. I don't know if Google will ever shut down playbooks, and when they
I don't
shut
know.
down almost everything that they launch. So
Pretty prominently placed on the main screen, and they got a lot of stuff on there. In fact, when we
yeah,
do our reviews here at the studio, our guys are usually like, let's use playbooks. So a lot of our recent things that we've been doing have featured playbooks content versus anything else, because it's just so much more robust and accessible, and
And
they
we
have
don't
all
have
the
to
latest
side load
things.
anything and
And
spend hours of
everything's
prep.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. Everything's just so high quality than putting some jank public domain a Christmas Carol on our stuff that just never works. It's yeah, playbooks is proving quite beneficial.
When Google implemented the 30% like revenue thing, and Audible and Barnes and Noble and Kindle removed all like the purchasing functionality,
Yeah,
I have to wonder if there was like an influx of playbook users, like people that are now going to gravitate towards playbooks
maybe.
because, you know, sometimes people are loyal to specific ecosystems, but at the same time, you go with what's easy.
I
You go
was
for
gonna
like a
say,
frictionless experience.
yeah,
You
it,
want something that you can just, I see a book, I want to click on, I want to buy it, I want
that's
to read
it.
it.
That's
I don't
it.
want to like visit the website and sync and wait for that syncing process to like deliver. It's like I
Yeah,
just want to look for a book, whether it is manga or magazine or whatever. I just want to find something and just read it as soon as I buy it. I don't want to do nothing
that's
else.
that's probably why that even like in our small circles we've heard the words playbooks being more prominently even muttered than ever before. So yeah, people go with the ease of use, and it is, like you said, a frictionless experience, and it's on everyone's Android phone because you can't avoid Google Play on an Android phone, and it's one of the four things at the bottom is books. So that
Yeah.
basically talks about the big three, which is Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and Kobo. And they're referred to as the big three because they're the most prominent, they're the most synonymous with the e-reader industry. And overall, volume-wise, they have the largest reach, the most countries, the most sales, because you can find Kindles in India and Papua New Guinea and Portugal and Gibraltar. But what is a very interesting gravitation we saw is that ebook readers are no longer the prime focus of the e-reader industry, the e-paper industry. In fact, tablets and alternative devices like phones and smaller palm devices have
And
outnumbered
monitors.
and monitor oh man have out quantified, are selling more and faster and with more manufacturers and competition than e-readers. E-readers started it, and now tablets outnumber them 4-1 at
What do you
least.
mean by tablets? Like
So
iPads?
yeah, no, ebook tablets, so e-paper tablets like Huawei and Lenovo and Bigme and Onyx and HyRead and MeBook and 35 other manufacturers just of note. There's hundreds across countless countries like
Polino, Bokeen.
Iran has their own tablet e-note. South Korea has their own tablet e-note. South Africa has their own tablet e-note. Everyone's got e basically e-notes now and tablets like the Dasung Not e-reader and these big mega slabs of e-paper devices, Quadernos and Remarkables, have outsold and outclassed traditional ebook readers 4 times over. So gravitating away from the big three for the conversation of 2024, what else can these manufacturers do? Because, for example, we have never seen a device as loaded as the Ink Note Color by Bigme, Color Plus, not the one we made with them, the successor to that. It has every spec imaginable to the point where it has a laser pointer, fingerprint sensor, 4 mics. There's nothing it doesn't have. And then I'm just
Cameras for
2 cameras.
OCR,
Uh,
styluses to draw
yep,
in color and,
and four
take
color
notes.
versions, as well
Yeah.
as 300 ppi black and white and 150 ppi colors. Not only that, stereo speakers all day long. Companies like Hanvon have introduced 6,000, if not 8,000 milliamp batteries, Hisense devices, the phones basically, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 onboard storage, upwards of some devices being expandable by a terabyte of storage. So what I'm saying is, how much further can e-paper go, and what are we to expect for 2024? I'll let you go in a second. My thoughts, my thinking is 2024, we're going to see this massive emergence of hyper refresh. Onyx and Hisense and iReader have already introduced these super refresh technologies that almost make it seamlessly run at almost like a 22 to 25 frames a second, like flawless video playback. And the specs are just going to get higher and higher and higher. We're going to see 12 gigs of RAM. Companies are continuously doubling their RAM. We're going to see terabytes of storage. What do you think 2024 holds for the non-big three members? So, you know, Onyx and HyRead and MeBook and everybody. What are they going to do? The tablet technology companies.
Well, they're limited, number one, by just E INK, who's the
Yeah,
number one supplier of e-paper panels found on all of the devices that you mentioned,
everybody.
including the big three. E INK's the only game in town. Plastic
Yep.
Logic never really made like a serious attempt to like enter that space because nobody who was really dealing with E INK wanted to switch to an alternative platform.
Yeah.
And Clear Ink is the same thing. No one really wanted. Everybody's already dealing with one company, and there wasn't a compelling enough reason to switch to another one. So, for better or for worse, we're all stuck with E Ink, and we're all stuck with what type of innovations that they're doing. So, one unannounced thing that they have done is E INK Carta 1300.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that iReader did 1300? And I think both of us went to trade shows. I went to two trade shows in Tokyo and met with E INK. And I asked them personally about E INK 1300, and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, same here. All my
Yeah,
contacts are like almost like just under the CEO, like under like the executive chairman, Johnson Lee. I've talked to my normal
yeah,
contacts that I've been talking to for 2 decades now. They don't even know about E INK Carta 1300. And iReader is like a Chinese company that is primarily sold like in China, but we sell it through all of our network of
yeah,
stores. And it was the first digital paper, like, when we
yep,
mention like e-notes or e-notebooks, they're large screen ebook readers, but they have like Wacom integration where they usually come with like Wacom pens where you can draw on the screen, so
yeah.
you can sign your signature on like a PDF document actually with a flourish, and it's way better than using drawing it with your mouse like on Adobe Acrobat on your
Yeah.
Mac or PC or something like that. But you could usually draw in color if it's a color device, so you have like either 16 or 24 different colors that you can draw. So creatives can really flex their muscles. A lot of businesses invest in these technologies as an alternative to like real paper because they have apps that they could run. So if I'm a company that has my own proprietary apps, I could just buy like an Android 12 eNote and like
Done.
launch my proprietary apps on there. So
That's it.
the cloud integration where everyone updates docs or coding and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good reasons to sort of buy these eNotes where a lot of companies are investing heavily in eNotes, probably because you can use them as dedicated book readers if you want, or you can use them as productivity devices if you want. So
Yeah.
it's like a split feature. Like I know a lot of people who bought the Kindle Scribe who never use the pen. They just love a large screen
Yeah.
ebook reader with 300 ppi.
Right.
And it's the same thing with all these color e-readers or these large screen black and white e-readers. They're designed to be, in effect, digital paper, but that's not all. You could just use them to read manga in full color, magazines in full color, newspapers. Like, they can run Android apps. So you can run Android apps and have content displayed in full color, which
Right.
is like very compelling when it comes to comic books and things like that. They're designed as a full color experience. So I have a feeling that E INK is not going to release anything really new other than just Carta 1300. And the only thing that Carta 1300 really does than Carta 1200, which is in the vast majority of devices, Kindle Paperwhites, most of like the Kobo e-readers that are out there, most of the e-notes and e-readers that are around the world, most are using that now. And all it does is offer like basically a 30% increase in like performance across the board.
That's
So
pretty good though. A
things are
third better.
snappier and
Yeah,
so on. But like you kind of said about specs,
they're high now,
all of
man. They're
all of these
big.
notes that you mentioned are all running Android. And the
All of them.
higher versions of Android that you use, the more that everything is just demanded for
That's
in
right.
terms of specs. So there's a reason why flagship smartphones have 24 gigs of RAM,
Yeah.
32 gigs of RAM, because if you're going to be running high performance apps, if you're going to be gaming, if you're going to be doing all this stuff, like you're going to need a large battery and you're going to need a large processor and lots of RAM in order to really get the most of Android because Android is all about open and background processes. If you
Yep.
have like 30 things open, those things are constantly running and they're going to be draining your battery. You
Yep.
need all the stuff to do that. Not everyone's going to be flipping up to like close stuff, So there's a reason why flagship smartphones and stuff do that. And to a lesser extent, the e-notes industry and e-reader industry are basically in a spec bump war, more storage, faster processor, more RAM across the board. So for 2024, there's going to be no new color E ink coming out. There's Kaleido 4 is not going to come out in 2024. I have a feeling
Mm.
that maybe something new will come out in 2025 because usually Kaleido is usually like on about a 2-year cycle. Um,
Yeah.
they release it and then they kind of like convince everyone to adopt it. And so between Kaleido Plus and Kaleido 3, it was like basically less than 2 years that
Yeah, you're
that stuff
right.
came out.
Yeah, and you know what? That's right. Now that you mention it, there were a couple straggler manufacturers, like Big Me and Pocketbook, that both released a very late Kaleido 2 this year. In May and June, they both came to the races with a Kaleido 2 screen and re-inkstone. So there were multiple manufacturers that did not even have a Kaleido 3 option, whereas other devices have been doing it. So yeah, you're right. It could be that Kaleido 4 is not seen as unnecessary, but it just might be too soon, seeing that manufacturers have just started getting Kaleido 3 integrated into their systems and working properly.
Yeah, so I don't see Kaleido 4 until 2025.
Okay, but how about
Um,
this? Do you feel that there will be a Carta 1300 with a color array filter, aka a Carta 1300 color? Do you think that is something that could happen?
what do you mean?
So right now, no one has a. Do you? So no one's using Carta 1300. So I guess the first question is
One
how pro.
company is
Well, yeah,
iReader.
iReader. Yeah. So I even it's funny on the second trade show, I brought the X3 to Tokyo and showed a bunch of the E Ink guys, and they came and crowded around. They're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "This is iReader." They're like one of the three biggest manufacturers in they got towers in China, these guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, iReader." Yeah, and I'm just like, well, and they're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, all right. So my question to you is, do you feel Carta 1300 will be adopted by the likes of HyRead, the likes of MeBook and Onyx and Big Me?
Well, Onyx needs to promote it first. They need to issue a press release at the very least, which they have done in past iterations of Carta. They did it for Carta 1200 and then Carta 1250, which
1250.
was
Yeah.
designed for e-notes,
Yeah.
which basically just reduced latency with like stylus to screen and drawing around. And that was basically the extent of like the 50 series. So we'll see 1300 in e-readers and e-notes, and then probably 1350 for e-notes, like maybe early 2025. I've, that's generally like when they sort of do the 50 series, is about a year after they'll do it. So they need to promote it and they need white papers. Like they need to be able to show something
Yeah.
to companies like you want to adopt this because they don't, I mean, nobody at E Ink even knows this exists right
Is that's
now.
the weirdest
So
thing, honestly.
it's
I've never
like,
come across that in 10 years. This
yeah,
is
so
weird.
it's like they need to first issue a press release. And at the same time, they need to trade, like they need to train the trade show people and they need to
Yeah.
like brief internally on what this is because right now there's a product out with the E INK 1300. The people at the only information that we got like was like all this like stuff that we can't talk about that we got from iReader
Yeah.
that talked about the benefits of like 1300. And it, that's where we got the 30% increase, because that was actually on like the stuff that iReader had
Yeah.
sent us that E INK had sent iReader. So there are people at E INK that know this exists, but the vast majority of people that should know this exists doesn't know. So
Yeah.
they're gonna have to spend like, I mean, with like Chinese New Year and a Spring Festival, I mean,
It's gonna be a
when are they
while.
ever gonna even train people?
It's
Like,
gonna be a while.
starting April, May,
Yeah.
perhaps, and then we might see Carta 1300 fall of
Could be a fall.
2024.
Yeah, it could be a fall release. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Um.
it's like they need to
Yeah.
train the staff, and then they
Yeah.
need to actually like have Nectronics, who does Barnes and Noble and Kobo. They need to be able to get the component manufacturers, like who's going to be manufacturing the Carta 1300 screens. Is it going to be, or like the like the film that they use for
Yeah.
that?
Right.
Is it the same people that are doing Carta 1200? If so, how different is it? Are they going to
Yeah.
be able to their existing factory line that does Carta 1200 screens, will they be able to easily adopt 1300? Where are they going to get like the guidelines for actually physical construction? Like at what time? After the press release, after E INK is briefed on it, after the white papers are published? It's like, you know what I mean? So it's
There's
like,
a long.
for all those reasons, I probably don't think that we'll see we'll see more devices with 1300, but we won't actually like hear about it in an official capacity until summer, like maybe, probably at the earliest. But
Okay.
given that iReaders adopted it, we'll probably see more Chinese companies adopt it, because for whatever reason, it's like, they seem to be first to the market with new and innovative tech. And,
Yeah.
Onyx Books is a Chinese company, Bigme is a Chinese company.
Yeah.
I Fly Tech, it's just like, HyRead, but I kind of, some of them are based in Taiwan, some of them are based
Yeah.
in like mainland China, but I just
Right.
equate it as like, um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about what HyRead's doing because nobody really cares. Like,
High
you
Read.
know,
Yeah, I can attest to that right now. High Read has just kind of situated itself as if you got a couple bucks in your wallet and you happen to see a High Read ad pop up on your phone, maybe buy one. They're not bad, but they just don't do anything to go, oh, High Read, oh, I gotta have it. Like Hanvons are very thin, razor thin. Hisense devices are crazy fast. iRead is using the latest tech. Onyx is just, it's the pinnacle, a top of the clock when it comes to E INK tablets. What does High Read do? It's like I got a little bit of everything, but not a
they're
lot
like,
of something.
they're not popular outside Taiwan. It's like
It's like a local
you know,
company.
exactly. If you live
Yeah,
in Taiwan, which is like it does have a bigger population there than I think most of Canada
I
does.
believe so. Yeah.
Where
What's the
Japan, it's like,
population
I
of
think
Taiwan?
Tokyo has more people living in it than all of Canada does
They do.
combined.
Yeah, they do. That's pretty
So,
freaking crazy.
regional powers for specific
Yeah.
markets, like, actually do good. Like, prime example, the Sony bookstore used to be like one of the most popular bookstores. Sony killed it all over the world, but it's still going strong in Japan.
Because they got 120 million people here, so they can have these in-house products. Like if it wasn't for us collaborating with Fujitsu to bring their Quaderno to the masses, it would be a Japanese only product. There's no reason for them to go outside, but we work with them for years now, since 2019. So a lot of back end stuff, internal discussions and whatnot. But yeah, that's just to attest to that point that if you're a local company, you don't really need to expand unless that's your goal. But Mr. Mike, I have all the answers. I have a question for you, and it's something that has been on everybody's mind. And I'm not putting you on
No,
the spot. Let's talk about it. Seriously.
hit me.
13.3-inch color. We've seen it at countless trade shows. I've had it in my hands. Linfini's building it. Fujitsu wanted to do it. IEOE, some weird solutions company, wanted to do it. We went to the trade show. We filmed it. they shut us down. They said they stood right in front and they're like, no, you can't film it. I'm like, well, we're here filming and you're at a live trade show. And they're like, yeah. And I said, and it's right here on the table. And they're like, no filming, no talking, no pictures, no nothing. And they had like this crazy culture around it to be like, don't look at it, don't touch it. 13.3-inch color exists and has for years. Why isn't it out yet? And I don't have the answer too. I just want to talk to you about it.
Costs,
Yeah.
Color devices cost at least $200 plus,
Yeah.
more expensive than black and white devices. If you look at
the Air 3 and the Air
Big
3C, yeah, they're $100 difference just on like
That's right.
yeah, that's right.
And that's Onyx. Big Me is the same thing. Sometimes like the dollar figure is more pronounced, but it's at least $100 more
Yeah.
expensive for the color versus the black and white for the same hardware. Like, like a lot of times for Onyx does for black and white. Like the Onyx spoke Note Air 3 and a Note Air 3C, exact same specs. One's color, one's black and white. For instance, the black and white version is actually a bit heavier for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but and then it's like it's $100 difference. But other companies they charge a little bit more, for the color version. So 13.3s as they stand, general price.
The Tab X is like $900 for the Tab X.
Yeah, and then the Fujitsu A4 is like
it's around 7, and then the Big Me X6 is like $799. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm starting to see it. Yeah.
So you look at 7. Okay, let's look at 7, 8, 999. For 13.3s that you can buy that are somewhat like new and they still function good, like Fujitsu A4, the Onyx Book Tab X, and the Big Me X6.
X6, yeah.
They range from $799 to like $999.
Yeah.
And then add at least $100 or $200. Now you're paying $1,000 plus for a Kaleido 3 digital note-taking device. So Fujitsu seems to be the company that will, you buy something and you can actually get it for like, say, a Kaleido 3 for like $799, which is like pretty good. Everyone else will charge more, generally over the $1,000 mark. And there's very few devices made with E INK technology that are over the $1,000 mark. It's monitors. E INK monitors are probably the only thing that you could spend that will do it past that mark. And usually 25 inches, either flat screen or curves, which is like what Big Me is doing and Onyx is doing.
And Dasung.
So yes, so Dasung and Big Me is actually coming to the monitor space for the first time. Dasung's been in the monitor space for years, but everybody just in a monitor space, they tend to crowdfund for some reason. I guess it's
just they don't know if people are going to buy it and they're too scared to make a production run of 300 units and stack their warehouses with $1 million worth of stuff that they're like, can we sell it? Whereas if you crowdfund, even the big boys, like you said, Dasung is massive and they crowdfund when it comes to monitors. They
crowdfund everything.
Yeah, Big Me doesn't crowdfund ever, but they did to monitors. You know what I mean? So it's like it might be that just the unit SKU is so high.
I think they did Indiegogo. Didn't they do it for the Galley?
Yeah, but that was mostly for our collaboration between us. We kind of went that way because again, a new technology that's never been out before, right? Much like their 2-in-1 PC. How are people going to take to a 2-in-1 E INK PC, right? So I guess even I guess we're guilty of that too when we collab. But yeah, a lot of companies that come to the races with something super new. DES technology, no one knew how that would take off, and it was an absolute flop. They all crowdfund.
You could say the same about Gallery 3. Gallery 3. Big Me released one product with Gallery 3, and they were the only company to release something with Gallery 3. And at first, it sucked. Like, it was only like 6 months afterward did it become usable through like 12 14 firmware updates.
That was a lot of updates.
They released updates like weekly, to try to make it usable. I think it's in a good position now, but it took almost a year for it to become really good. Um, there's a reason I think why the Pocketbook Viva never came out, and who knows if it ever will, because it's new tech and it really has to be optimized at a software level because just out of the box, it's based on advanced color e-paper. So refresh speed is a huge problem because
Yeah.
if you when advanced color e-paper first came out, you went to like Japan. You were in Japan at the time, and you went all the way from where you were to like 3 hour drive to Tokyo to this
Yeah.
one store that had advanced color e-paper
Yeah.
in its window.
They had
And so
it was just this department store that not even advertised about what the e-paper was. And you told me, you're like, yo, there's a panel. I'm like, there's a panel in the middle of the biggest city in the world. You're like, go to it, find the panel. And it was literally just this panel that was up like this on a metal brace. And it said, welcome to, I'm just gonna say a Coach, welcome to Coach, buy some bags. But that advertised panel was ACEP Advanced Color E-Paper, and we
and it
filmed
was
the
the
crap out
first
of it.
one that had ever been
Yeah,
used like by like a company. So it's like
ever.
that's what we filmed videos on it. We wrote about
Yeah,
it like on the website. So
yeah.
I've read I mean written about advanced color e-paper for a long time. Um, benefits, I mean, like what 40, 50,000 colors,
They look
whereas
too
like
good.
Kaleido cut
The galley
so
looks
Kaleido
so good.
that's right. So Gallery 3, which is based on advanced color e-paper, can display like 50,000 colors, whereas Kaleido 3 can only display 4,000 colors.
Not even close.
4,100 colors to be
Yeah,
generous. But I mean,
yeah.
everybody's using Kaleido 3 because the tech has been around in one form or another for like the last 6 years
Long time.
plus.
A long
So
time.
there's a lot of documentation. There
Yeah.
is like a lot of like, people who have made color devices from Kaleido 1 to Kaleido 3. They know that very little has to be changed on the software side to do that
Yeah.
because Kaleido 3 is basically just like a thin film that's put on top of like the Carta screen. So it's the same thing as like a frontlit display.
Yeah.
When frontlit displays on e-readers first came out, they were basically along the sides of the bezel that projected light across the screen. So top down, side to side. And what they actually figured out to do was to turn the frontlit display into a gel layer
Yeah.
on the screen. So basically, so for Kaleido across all generations to the frontlit display to the digitizing layer, they're just basically thin films that are put on top of like the e-reader. So very easy to make, very economical. So that's why like a lot of Kaleido 3 devices don't really cost a whole lot more than the black and white devices. They charge, like 50 or $100 like more because it does those costs do add up if you're making 1,000 of them and paying extra for
Easily.
every film layer that you're going to be putting on because you got to source it, you got to assemble it. It's time, it's money, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Gallery 3, it's made completely with different screen technology.
It's not
So
Kaleido. It's not Pearl. It's not Carta. It's not anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's its own screen technology. So for all like the e-reader manufacturers that do the Carta screens, which is like the actual physical e-paper screen, and then do all like the layers of film. Across the e-reader industry, it's pretty easy to be able to do this. Every manufacturer in the e-reader industry actually has experience with this. With Gallery 3, like it's whoever Bigme contracted out to actually do the physical construction, they're the only people that actually have ever done it
Yeah.
uh, to brought it to market. And I can't really think that Gallery 3 was that expensive. But
It on its own, if they didn't collab with us, we talked a lot, and this isn't confidential information. If they didn't collab with us to combine our forces to subsidize the cost, it would have been quite a bit more, which is why the Viva is more money. But it all comes back to just no one else is doing it. So You look at why tablets are so cheap. You can get tablets as low as $19 on Wish. You just can't do that with e-paper because, it's a niche market. Even further than that, yeah, gallery. And not only that, once you have the gallery, like Michael said, it's not ready to go. It took months of rounds of internal discussions between us and Big Me to get it tweaked and be like, okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. The refresh isn't capable of keeping up, but we have Google Play on this thing. What do we do, right? So it was a massive challenge, which I assume, which is why Pocketbook hasn't yet released the Viva, even though we had our hands on it. They sent it to us. It was a Viva body, had its own serial number, had its own model number, but I imagine they're suffering the same issues.
Yeah, it's in-house technical expertise
Yeah.
and limited amount of documentation from E Ink themselves.
Yeah.
So it's those challenges, you know what I mean? So E Ink still makes the most money from the e-reader industry.
Yeah.
So, I pay attention to their financials and, they want to, I would probably say price tags are the second biggest revenue things. So they made like a big contract with, I think it was with Walmart in the
Oh, yeah.
States. If you
Yeah.
live in
A lot of people don't know those are e-paper.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like across Europe primarily, but all over Asia, from China to Taiwan to Japan to the Philippines, the Pan Pacific Rim, and then to a limited extent North America. But walk to a store and e-paper price tags are the most popular thing right now.
You'll see
There you
something
go.
like this. Yeah, this isn't it, but it looks like this. If you see something below your CVS pharmacy, your Walmart, your Fred Meyer, and you ever see like a thick panel that almost looks like a calculator, that is e-paper. And the beauty of it is they can just walk by with these panels and go up and down the aisle and go beep, 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 and just update everything instantly. And they last like, I think they last over 12 months. They just live because e-paper does not consume battery if it's not changing state. So if it's stuck in this state and you never update the price, it never uses battery. This could very well be dead. I don't know. It'll always look like that. So yeah,
Yeah. So
the
they
e-paper
have
panels.
Spectra that are color versions. So
Yeah,
you might see color price tags with like three different colors, like black, red, green. It's sort of
yeah,
like the RGB
tricolor.
colors.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they have like actual like dedicated like stuff for inside freezers. So
yeah.
for e-ink panels that could like do like either under very cold circumstances or very hot circumstances. So, price tags, they either be black and white or a series of colors, which is like why you see a lot of companies employ that. And I think that that's going to, in terms of just e-ink themselves, they're very bullish about sort of this technology. And that's why they're the biggest company involved in this space is called SES and Magitag, and they were independent, and then E Ink actually like gave them a few $100 million US to like
Only.
help subsidize their business. And E Ink is like actually on their board of directors right now, charting the future of this company. So they're basically the number one, supplier, vendor, installer of these price tags, but E Ink is now sort of in bed with them. So there's less of a distinction between them and E Ink at this point. But that's like sort of these price tags are going to slowly become, I think, bigger in the future in the next couple of years,
Yeah,
bigger than the e-reader industry. Because if you look at 2023, more e-notes and e-readers came out in
yeah,
2023 than any other year. And I
yeah.
said the same thing in 2022 and
Because it's
2021.
always
It's
true
just like
though.
more devices are coming out and more regional players are releasing more. So prime example, we there when mirror cell technology came out, there was very few companies that had done it. Kyobo is a South Korean bookstore chain, and they were the first ones to release an e-reader using mirror cell technology.
Yeah.
And then they did that like what, like 2000 like
Oh, I don't know, 12 or
12.
11? Yeah, back
Yeah,
then.
like 11, 12. They did it like really on in like the
Here, let's
e-reader
see.
sort of industry. And I heard that they're releasing a new e-reader in 2024. So
Oh
it's just
yeah?
like, these companies that have been in
Oh,
it
2012.
and
You're
then
right. Yeah.
and then out of it for so long, they're actually getting back into it because they see that so many new devices are coming out that small regional players can actually sell and market it in one specific country and actually make it economically viable. And obviously, when we live in North America, which is like the vast majority of our listeners, the people, traditionally, when you look at sort of like the analytics of who visits our site, who watches our videos, for the most parts the US, to lesser extent Canada, lesser extent the United Kingdom, but it's
Yeah.
mainly English speaking countries,
Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand, things like that. But US is like our largest market. So, when I mentioned a lot of these companies, you may see Amazon being sold at some big box retailers in the States, or if you go to a Barnes and Noble, you'll see like a little Nook stand. If
Yeah.
you live in Canada, you go to Chapters
Chapters
Indigo
Indigo. Yeah.
Bookstore, which is the largest bookstore chain in Canada. You'll see Kobo is being sold in there. So Kyobo is a big bookstore chain in South Korea. And so being able to sell your own e-readers at your own bookstores, it makes perfect sense. And then that's what HyRead does, like in
Taiwan.
Taiwan, and that's what
Yeah.
Tolino does as part of the Tolino Alliance in Germany. So if you
Oh,
walk into a Thalia or
that's
something
right.
like that, they have a Tolino stand where you could buy the e-readers like actually in the bookstores.
Yeah.
There's like a couple other bookstores, but I don't know how to pronounce their names. I'm sorry. I know how they're spelled because I've written about them at all a long time, but I'm not a German speaker. I can
Yeah.
speak a minute français, but that's about it. And I speak it very poorly. So, and it's because of the secondary language like in Canada, right? Teaching in
Yeah, you
schools and
you
stuff.
you look at the back of any product in Canada, it'll be in French. Yeah, it's funny that you said Kyobo. That's right, because I completely forgot in the mad dash of everything in December of this month. Kyobo emailed us and said they're sending us the Sam 10 Plus, which is their
Are they?
e-note. Yeah, they're sending it.
Nice.
The Sam 10 Plus is going to be sent from South Korea, and that's a 10-inch or 10.3. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 10-inch, and it's a upgrade over the regular Sam, which is 7.8. So, yeah, and to Mike's point, there's tons of markets like people keep telling us to review the Persian e-reader and the Persian e-note from Iran. It's like we can't get that and they don't answer our questions. Japan has Fujitsu booths and Rakuten booths and King Gym, which is a stationary company, but they have the Freeno and stuff. So, there's no shortage of regional players, and sometimes they step out of that and become an international player, much like Onyx and Big Me, etc. But yeah,
And then some don't. Like
and some
they're
don't.
just quite happy to be a small player in a specific country and not expand
And they
outwards.
don't want
Whereas
to.
like some do. Like I remember when Onyx Books was just China,
Yeah,
and we convinced them to release English firmware in order
that's
to
right.
sell it outside of China because we were
Yeah,
getting like their first e-readers that they had ever made with no touch screens and just buttons and
yeah,
stuff like that. And we're
yeah.
like, there's something to this. Like you should release English and sell it overseas. And they were like, yeah. And every
Yeah,
time they
yeah,
would
yeah.
send us like, every time they would send us like, when they were, I believe it was like the Max Carta, like
Oh,
their
the
13
no
point.
touch screen. Yeah,
That's right. And we convinced them to release English firmware. And then ever since then, they become like one of the biggest players in
they're
like the e-note
huge.
space because
Yeah,
they sell things domestically with like in China, but all they do is like have a different sort of firmware for
yeah.
English for that international market. And then now they've kind of come full circle where they have released specific models now just for the Chinese market where they get mad if we even like report on it for some reason. And
I don't
then,
know why. Yeah, we're not affiliated with Onyx. It's just a professional courtesy that if they're like, please don't report on this, we're like, fine. But I kind of
plus
get to where they're.
we have a relationship with them obviously because we sell their devices and
Yeah,
they give us dealer pricing, which we they everything that we sell in our stores we deal with these companies directly to get dealer
Yeah.
pricing to sell them. And but
Right.
we don't sell all the e-readers because like, we receive a lot of samples and a lot of them suck and are
Yeah.
ghetto and
And they just
they
go.
crash during like the unboxings and it's like in
Yeah.
good conscience, I can't sell this
Oh,
because if people are like, it's just like, yeah, we sell a lot, but we don't sell everything
we
because like
can't, man. When
some
we
of it
get the
is
when we
just
get the
garbage.
Shenzhen power and we open it up and it's just like it's just trash. We start filming these things and it just it doesn't even get to the point where, like Mike said, the unboxing can't even be fully produced by us. We're just like, we have to scrap this whole day of work because we can't proceed with this. And we donate we don't throw anything away. We always say we chuck it in trash, but we don't. We donate things, we do giveaways. We've done hundreds of giveaways. We have a second turn outlet on eBay. We make sure we always give back to people. But yeah, sometimes we get these absolute clunkers and they can't be brought to the public. It's just it
Yeah,
can't be
we can't
done.
even sell them on eBay because
No.
it's just like eBay users would just like flood us with like negative reviews once
Yeah,
they get the
yeah.
item.
Yeah, forget
Just
it.
like,
Forget
what are
it.
you selling? It's like,
Yeah, what is
uh,
this? What is this
I can't.
trash?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when you can't even sell something on eBay, or you're totally unwilling to
Yeah,
associate your name with like this product on eBay that is garbage product. So
just
yeah, I
donate it
mean,
to a school.
we receive a lot of stuff that
Tons.
we don't even like review like on the Goody Reader like YouTube channel, youtube.com/Goody Reader, or our Goody Reader Tech channel,
Yeah,
youtube.com/Goody Reader Tech. So
yeah.
we do some stuff on the Goody Reader Tech channel that just, you know, that's small and very niche like items and stuff. Still e-paper, sometimes phones, sometimes tablets and things like that, but
Yeah.
stuff that wouldn't make sense for the Giddy Reader channel. So we do have a secondary channel. It's very small. We don't
Yeah.
really put a huge priority on it. So
Yeah,
uh,
it's just for the overflow of devices because we get so much stuff. It's not even funny. I mean, I can just around my desk. There's headphones and thermometers and hygrometers and label printers and earbuds. There's
book like what like the book press things that actually
there's
would
two.
like scan books like on an industrial
Oh,
scale.
geez, CZUR sent us three in a row, and then we reviewed them, and we're like, it's not very good. And they're like, you don't know how to use it. And we said, sure, we do. We followed your directions to a T. It's not a very good product. What do you want us to do here? Because they don't pay us for reviews. We get everything just sent to us kind of blindly, which is why not everything makes the cut. And we need to use our journalistic opinion to be like, this is either good or bad, and we put it out there. Like everyone was up in arms when we said the Moby Scribe was one of the worst e-readers ever, and they're like,
It
"You're not being,
was.
yeah." They're like, "You're not being fair to the company by saying it's bad," and I'm like, "Well, then that would mean we're not truthful in our findings because if we just said, okay, guys, it's good,' it's like." Well, now you can't trust us because we're saying it's good when it's not. No, the Moby Scribe Wave Color was absolutely awful. And another example of a company
And
who
the
released
wave
something very
like
late.
a black and white version, same thing, is the
That
same
was even
hardware.
worse. Yeah, it was even
Yeah.
worse. I didn't even upload it because it was so bad. I'm not even joking. And yeah, that was just another example of a company that didn't know what they're doing, threw a bunch of stuff at the wall, hope it stuck, and released Kaleido 2 late in the year. It wasn't good. And we have to be truthful in our reviews. Otherwise, there's no reason for you guys to watch or consume our content.
Yeah.
That's it.
So there is like, so as you guys know, if you're like a viewer or like you read our website or maybe you just watch our videos, you know that we sell e-readers.
Yeah.
Some people like may know that our goodyreader.com main site has like a WooCommerce store, but we also have a few Shopify stores like as well. So we do sell e-readers as well. But selling e-readers is just like a part of our business. Like
Yep.
it's a different team that runs the store.
Yep.
Whereas like Peter primarily responsible for managing the YouTube channel, like on like an overview. For
Yep.
me, I'm more of like a director at this point. I don't write articles daily anymore. We have like 4 or 5 different writers that are writing content for like the team. So I'm overseeing them now on like a daily basis. So I'm more of like I can follow trends and statistics like a little bit better, get more talk to people more in like the industry and stuff like that. like making more contacts. Like, this year, 2023, we got TCL like as part of like
That's
a
right.
vendor now. So we deal directly with them. We get all of our samples now through them. We can sell like their devices and like, have them a little bit just under or over MSRP prices
Right.
just because of just the logistics and everything of it. But yeah, so just because we sell the devices, it doesn't influence our journalistic integrity when it comes to writing a physical review of the device or Peter doing like an unboxing or a review of that specific product.
That's
So,
right.
like I said, we don't sell everything that we review and we don't sell, wait, that
We
doesn't
don't
make
sell
sense.
everything we review, and we don't review everything we sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We sell a bunch of stuff we never review because our team is like, well, we're going to sell these. And we're like, all right. And it's not at a detriment to our brand. So we let the team
Yeah, a
operate
lot of it
as
is
is.
like we have reviewed a few styluses, say from King Jim, but we
Oh,
don't like
yeah.
review all of the style. Because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they release a few new styluses a year but sometimes when it comes to Mitsubishi, they only have a few, so
Yeah.
we've done like the high noon and like their
Yeah.
normal stylus and the Norris digital, so
Yeah.
we
Stabler.
review almost everything that we sell, but there's sometimes like we don't sell everything that we review
Yeah.
just because um
It's not good enough to make the cut.
it's hard to
Yeah.
sometimes to get samples,
Yeah.
from these companies, especially like the smaller companies,
That's right.
because sometimes like they have e-readers that aren't available in English. So we don't really review Chinese e-readers for a few reasons. Like iFlyTech is a pretty good example. Like
That's kind of why we
they have,
stopped iFlyTech. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they only have Chinese on it, and you actually have to have a Chinese mainland phone number in order to even like use it. So it very limits that type of device where
Yeah.
it's hard for even just like, there's a lot of Chinese people in Vancouver. There's a lot of Chinese
Well,
people
there's
like living all
10
over the world.
million Chinese people that don't
Yeah.
live in China. I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah.
people.
So it's like if you're going to school in a country and it's like, oh, I want to get this e-reader so I could like, read all my content or my textbooks like in full color. And it's like, oh, I haven't lived in China for like 4 years because I've been going to
Yeah.
school here. Like,
Right.
how do I actually use this? It's like you have to like call your parents or your loved ones and get a phone number from them and use it and just like all this verification stuff. So yeah, that's a perfect example of stuff that we don't review because it's like, for one, it's not relevant to like the audience that we cultivated over the
Right.
course of like what, 15 years, 16 years,
16,
how long?
16 going on now, man. Yeah. It's been a long
Yeah.
time.
So we've been covering e-readers and stuff for like a long time. So yeah, I mean, do you
I
guys
would
really
like
want to see
to,
reviews of French e-readers that are just in French that have no English functionality, or
because
South
that,
Korean
yeah.
e-readers that don't have any English? It's
I
like
don't know if,
HyRead
yeah.
that that the Taiwan company, they actually have English firmware on it. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, they
like why
speak
we
English
review
in
the
Taiwan.
devices because it's relevant to everybody who watches our
Yeah.
videos that it has English. You can actually use it and sure, it only has a couple languages, whereas Big Me and Onyx, they have Android system languages.
Yeah.
So
That
it has
changes everything.
like 100 plus languages, plus like regional dialects like Tamil and stuff like
And
that.
you can do keyboard languages and you can slide them up in priority because it uses Android systems. But yeah, like iFlyTech is a huge brand. I would love to continue reviewing them. And they actually ask us, do you want any more samples? And a lot of the time we're like, not really, sorry. And they're like, why not? And we're like, we've been working with you guys for 4 years and you haven't put English once. Every time you send us something, I got to ping our guys in China because we have an office in China as well and say, hey, Henry, can I get your phone number? And they're like, why? I'm like, I have to send you a one-time passcode. Did you get it yet? Did you get it? Okay, cool. Just to get in. Like, that's not something we can back. It's not something we can get behind. That's not realistic to do that. And for the one person who says, oh, I can just ask my aunt in China. Sure. But for the 99.9% of other people, they don't have that ability. So
That's right.
the units are rendered useless. But
Yeah, so we've
iFlyTech,
been
yeah.
reviewing and doing videos long enough that we know what people care about and what people
Yeah,
don't care about.
we do.
And
Yeah.
e-readers in locked in specific regions that are very fringe and
We have to
nobody really
assess.
cares. Like the
Yeah,
videos
we
don't get
have to
very many
assess.
views. They're not getting comments when we write about it. So like, is there any point to it of us reviewing every single device on the market? Probably not, especially when it
No.
comes to like players that are around one time and then a couple of years later they're out of business. Like
Yeah,
e.g.
we have to pick
Bokeen
and
like went bankrupt,
Bokeen
like
done.
Icarus went bankrupt, like there's a lot of e-reading companies that are like these like fly by night type of companies.
Yeah.
They do like a couple and then they're just like out of business. So
Sometimes we make exceptions like re-inkstone. We knew people would be upset by that one because they basically, well, for lack of a better word, stole a lot of processed payments that they captured that they didn't fulfill.
almost like $100 million.
3 million dollars across a couple platforms, across a couple devices, and they realized, going back to the start of this this video we're doing, we said that, you know, there's no competition to e-paper. They ran DES, which is from Weifeng in China, a legitimate screen but illegitimate company. We Wood Group, they re-released a re-inkstone R1. It's brand new, 2023, came out a couple months ago, and it's running E INK, not DES. And people weren't too happy that we came to the races with that. But again, we're an unbiased news publication, and we just said, this is what it is. It's actually pretty good. It's well built, but it's from Wood Group. And we linked to our expose video of all the data that we gathered from them. So we're not backing them. We're just saying, this is, if this pops up on your Amazon.com, you got to be careful and know what you're getting into. But yeah, little things like that we bring up, but we can't review everything. It's not physically possible.
So one of the last things I wanted to talk about in
Yeah.
terms of like what's the future for 2024. Obviously, Onyx and Big Me are going to refresh everything. You know,
Every single
you can
freaking
expect
thing,
10
man.
new devices from each
Yeah.
one. There's
Yep.
no point speculating because they're going to do
No.
a Note Air 4.
There's no
They're
reason
going
not to.
do
There's no
yeah, a
reason not
Tab
to. No.
X2.
Yep.
You know, basically they're just gonna add another
Every one of them.
number after whatever that they're gonna be
They'll
like
add a
releasing.
plus, an Air, or the next number to each one of their units.
Yeah, Palma 2,
Yep.
like, you know,
Easy.
Leaf 5, like they're, you know, I mean, there's no point.
You're like,
But
5.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Note,
Yeah, that's funny.
like the Note 6 at
They're
this
on.
point.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Note
They
5. They
ditched the
skipped Note
Lumi
4.
like name now, and they're going with like the Tab Ultra
X.
now. So
It's the Tab
Ultra, Ultra.
X2. They have the Ultra Pro, Ultra C Pro, and they're gonna have the Ultra C Pro, Ultra C Pro Plus. Oh man, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, there's no point speculating what they're gonna do because we know what they're gonna do. They've done this for like years in a row where it's like every couple months it's like, hey, we have a new device. Hey, we have a new device. It's like, oh my god, you released too much hardware.
They did.
But we like to review like hardware.
We do.
Right?
We
like,
poke fun at it. Yeah, we poke fun
exactly.
at it.
Poke fun at it just because it's like it's like clockwork. Like Big Me and Onyx just like refresh everything every year, basically.
Yeah.
But one company that doesn't release a new product every year is Remarkable.
Ah, yeah, right.
They're almost due.
They are due. They are due.
Remarkable 2 review.
2020. I already know that one.
Okay. And a Remarkable 1?
2018. Am I right?
So
yeah,
it's what are they on a 3-year product cycle?
Kind of, if you average it 2 and 4, so the average is 3. Call it, yeah. They're due.
So yeah, they're in 2024. They're due.
Yeah.
So
it's right around the corner.
What would you like to see in a Remarkable 3?
I don't know, man. They don't care about the hardware at all. They just don't. These companies that have an underachieving product, not a software solution or user interface, an underachieving product in that they have 0 features. You can't do anything on them like Supernode and Remarkable. They don't care about the device body. They never have. It doesn't seem that they ever will.
Will it have a frontlit display finally?
I'm gonna have to say it has to. It has to. That's the bare minimum. You don't have to have speakers and microphones and biometric unlocks with your fingertip, but you must have a glow light. It's not even about like, oh, look at all our specs. No, it's about if you turn off the light, you can't see it. You can't see it. How is that not an inherent thing that everyone knows? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be demeaning, but how do you not have a glow light version? Why didn't you make the Remarkable 2 glow and up the sales? Keep the experience the same, nickel and dime people for features that you've taken away from them and then held hostage until they pay. But add a glow variant. It has to have a glow light. I still don't think they're going to include a stylus. They never do. You have to buy it separate. That's how they keep the price down, so that when you click on the ad, you're like, whoa, it's only $2.99. Yeah, plus $100 stylus. I think it's going to have a glow light. I don't think it's going to have a speaker. They don't care about audio. They don't care about audiobooks. They have no integration for that. I would say just, yeah, double the processing speed to keep things up, keep the latency low, and a glow light.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a new Carta screen. Like, they do use ink for like their screens.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'd like to see any type of bookstore on their device where like people could
Oh,
actually download books, even if they're like royalty-free books from Project
yeah.
Gutenberg. It's like they could read EPUB and they could read PDFs. It's like, you know, have a way that people could just like download the books right on the device, even if they're just royalty-free books like Tom Sawyer or something. This way people could like use the Remarkable. Only tech savvy people really know how to sideload stuff. Not everyone, like, I don't think the Remarkable works with Caliber. You really have to just like,
I
I don't
don't
know.
think
I
so.
think, does the Remarkable 2 even have USB-C?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the very bottom. Yeah, you got me thinking. I was like, wait, that's an early 2020. You're right. No, it does have
Yeah.
USB-C. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So I believe, I just don't know what it'll have, because it's like, we talk to a lot of people in the industry. We don't really talk to Remarkable very much,
No,
just because it's like they just do their own thing,
they
you
do their
know?
own thing. They don't care. They're just like, we sold 1 million units of this device that does nothing, because they pump all their money into advertisement. Not one
They do.
person can say
Yeah.
they haven't seen a Remarkable ad, and they are well produced. They're not cheap. They're not just a 3D like, this is the Remarkable. No, it's nice. Like, actors, beautiful people, all the whole nine. Set pieces, office buildings with damn near helicopter
Yeah, and that's the
shots.
advantage of only selling one product in your
One
product line at any given
product.
time. That's like,
Yep,
you could create a strong marketing like message behind it and
you can.
really, you know, drive home what it can do for you as opposed
Yeah,
to what you can do for it.
yeah, it's
So,
true. And that's why we
it's one
see
of the
companies
advantages.
That's why we see companies like Supernote that they're just not on the radar anymore, because they have multiple products that haven't advanced at all, because the first gen and the second gen are the same. The X series didn't do anything new, and they have multiple products. They have not a whole lot of direction, and they have a lot of advertisement pointing at different things. And then when you finally get their unit, there's no store, there's no ecosystem, there's no glow light. So you're confused as to the experience you were supposed to consume. And they're releasing the Nomad now, but only after years of just being in stasis. I
I
mean,
think
other
it's
than
been like 3 years,
a
almost
long
four
time,
years
man.
since the X version
They
versus the
used to be
X2
in the
Nomad.
spotlight, but they haven't done anything. They've done some updates and some small solutions things, and that's really it. They're
They
not
released a
really.
new pen,
Yeah, it's like a
like a
click in,
stock,
click out.
like it's yeah, like a stock Supernote pen.
Yeah,
They did that, but I mean,
we'll
how
still
excited
read them.
could we be over that? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
exactly, in like a 3 year period. It's like, oh, we released a couple of firmware updates. We
And some
issued a new
pens.
pen. It's
It's
like,
like, okay.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that doesn't really make the news cycle. I'm sorry.
It
So
doesn't, and
yeah,
we're
I
not
mean,
saying you have to be in the planned obsolescence turnover like an Onyx, but they're not doing anything right now. So we can't,
well,
yeah,
yeah, they released the Nomad. They're going to
which isn't even
do,
out yet.
what is that? Is that the 7.8 or the
That's the
10?
A6 Nomad 7.8. Correct. Yeah, it's not the A5.
Okay, then early 2024, they're going to be doing refresh their 10-inch version,
There you go.
and they're doing for the first time ever a 13.3-inch version.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know the date. They say
Yeah.
January, but they haven't even filed like FCC like applications
Yeah.
yet. So I have a feeling it'll probably be like April.
I hope so. I mean, we want to see everyone in the industry succeed. We even met them October at CTEC in Tokyo, went to their booth, had absolutely nothing new. So we were like, We had the guys with the cameras and stuff, and we're like, all right, well, bye. And we went to the Dasung booth. It wasn't out of any sort of bad blood or anything. It's just when you have nothing new to offer people and you're showing the same old thing, while these
Exactly.
other
It's like nothing
companies
new in like 3+ years.
and these
So
other
it's
companies
hard to
are
get
just
excited.
they're running circles around you. They're running circles around Remarkable, running circles around Supernote. It's like we can't just be expected to, hey guys, this is the Remarkable again. And it's like, why are you doing this video? And we're like, I know, right? So I don't know what you
Well,
want
I
us to
mean,
do.
remarkable, like I would probably say there's more remarkable users than are Supernote
Oh,
users,
by
mainly
a
because like
landslide.
Supernote is like the based in Japan, but they're
No, they're
also
based
based in
in China,
China.
but they have like a distribution in Japan that teams up with Wacom, but they're not a Japanese company, though. They're just Chinese.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
so they're just like a small player that a lot of people haven't heard of before, but everyone's heard of Remarkable. It's just
everybody.
because like uh it's hard not to see their ads if you're on Facebook, if you're on social media,
Oh, they're
Twitter,
everywhere.
now X,
Yeah,
Facebook,
they're
Instagram, like
everywhere. Isn't that
Pinterest.
crazy?
You'll see their ads everywhere.
Yeah,
But their units well constructed.
it
They
is.
have a series of premium accessories in terms of a basic pen, a premium pen. They have like cases that are made of like full like vegan leather, like
Yeah,
$150 like case that just feels ultra luxurious. And then they have like, $50 cases,
yeah.
made of felt. So they have a lot of accessories, which is like a testament to like a lot of people just will buy everything at once, the device, the pen, the accessories, and then just
Yep.
like go. And then they have everything that they like need for the next 3 or 4 years because remarkable stuff isn't really hardware reliant. They have some of the best drawing software in the business
It's
that
quite good.
everyone else in the eNote industry is emulated from. So Remarkable had the best. They had layers. They had if you've ever used Adobe Photoshop and all the different Photoshop options that you have, that's basically what Remarkable had first. And Onyx Books and Bigme and Supernote, they all copied what Remarkable was doing with like the
Yeah.
UI and the functionality and being able to import shapes, being able to like have layers. So be able to have one layer. So say you're like a creative professional. One layer is like the grass, very detailed, very fine. Second layer is like maybe some houses and stuff. So if you delete something by mistake, it's only one layer that you're deleting. You're not
That's
deleting
right.
everything that you wrote. So a lot of people who are graphics designers, they work with multiple layers at once because they could do something and then they can have like a filter on top of it. And then they can have like another filter on top of that and
Yeah.
edit each filter individually to be able to create like a logo that has some shine to it. So, when you see everything from like logos to art, they're all working with like layers. And so Remarkable is the first
Remarkable.
company to really introduce layers with the first gen Remarkable, and everyone copied them in the entire eNote
Everybody.
industry.
Yep.
So Remarkable has tremendous like software engineers, and
Yeah.
they're always doing firmware updates to enhance the quality of life as well as address bugs, introduce new features and things like that. So I'm a big fan of the way that they run their company. I mean, they've sold over 1 million tablets as just like a small boutique company, only
Pretty
selling ever
impressive.
one. They've sold two products ever
Two products
in
ever.
terms of devices.
And then some pens and some cases and tips. But yeah, two units. It's not you can't argue with numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they're
Yeah.
financially accessible, even though that they've raised a lot of venture capital. They've raised like I think it was like 150 million, 200 million total
Yeah.
in different like equity rounds. So they don't 100% own their company because they have investors and stuff that are
Yeah.
invested in like their success. But they did that early on in order to produce all these accessories and to do like a second generation Remarkable. Now I
Right.
think they're in a stable enough financial position that they could. I think that there'll be a Remarkable 3 in 2024. I haven't written about anything like
Hmm.
that yet, but I think I probably should, once we both finish the show, because it's
Yeah.
like, it's hard to have your hands on the crystal ball and predict what's going to happen in the
Yeah.
industry. But
Yeah.
given that companies, generally, if you look at how long it took for from the first generation to the second generation to be released, you can honestly extrapolate when the third generation will come out. The e-reader industry is pretty cyclical like that. Like generally with Kobo devices, it's generally like they'll refresh it every 2 to maybe 3 years in terms of all their devices. They'll
Yeah.
refresh, or maybe 1 year they'll do like last year. I think would they do the Ellipsa 2E?
Ellipsa 2E, yeah, and Kindle this year was the 16 gig Agave, which is nothing. It's just the Paperwhite. And then Barnes and Noble did they did two things. They did the Plus and they revitalized the pink version.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So that's about it.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say, although yeah, you guys have been very very thankful if you've listened this far, if you've watched our content, if you've read our news publication. Thank you guys all so much. You allow us to do what we do and keep giving back and bring you the best experience on e-paper as we possibly can.
Yeah. So going into 2024, our mission is still the same. We want you to read, whether you're reading on your phone, your tablet, your e-reader, anything.
Or your Dasung
We just,
link.
yeah, we want people to read.
I
Like,
gotcha.
yeah, the desktop link freaking sucks. But yeah, I mean, our mission is
Oh
just like we want
God.
more people to read. Like we
Yeah.
know that sometimes it's easy to doom scroll Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or
Yeah.
YouTube videos or like whatever, right? People doom scroll at all hours, and it's
Yeah.
like we'd like to lead you, read a book, short fiction, fan fiction,
Yeah.
like just
Anything.
anything,
Graphic novels,
just like
something to break it up.
yeah, I mean, reading statistically like just makes you a better and well-rounded person.
Yeah.
It's easy to carry a conversation if you're well read, that you could talk about anything really,
Yeah.
because it's very, some people just have a wide array and eclectic taste. Some people only like one specific genre of reading. Some people just love fanfic. They love Kindle Vella, short stories.
Yeah.
They love romance or erotica or post-apocalyptic vampire fiction. It's just like
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like read, because it's like, yeah, just reading makes you better,
Yeah,
I
it
think.
does. Good message.
So everybody, thanks for watching our videos, listening to our podcast, being a loyal reader, buying anything from our stores. It's like, we really appreciate you patronizing our business in any capacity. And for goodyreader.com and our last video of 2023, my name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Everybody take care.